Welcome back. Welcome to another edition of Nain Short with our special guest today, Eric, who is my fellow student here with Rico. We'll leave it at that. Anyways, thank you for joining us. If you missed this past weekend, the VEA just had their spring collective, and if you missed it, that sucks. It was a great turnout, a lot of fun. There will be another one in November, so keep an eye out for that. Mike Cardenas puts on a great show and has a lot of good food, so if you just want to come and eat, just come around noon, and they have a lot of good Filipino food, so as long as you pay for your ticket, you're all good. But getting back to what we were talking about, actually last episode, which was 2 weeks ago, because Nain had car trouble and I couldn't find the time to get my ass over here. So I apologize, people. I'm sorry. Also, Eric wasn't available, and I wanted to make sure that we included him this time around, because today I want to talk about a continuation of what we were doing last episode. Eric, what we were doing last episode, do you remember? It's 2 weeks. I know it's a long time, but
I do not remember.
All right. We were we were talking about the idea of flow, and how do you then actually practice that? Because you can give two people sticks and just have them start swinging at each other, but does that really amount to anything? I mean, I'm sure you would agree that in martial arts, regardless of what it is, whether it eventually meant to be free form or not, you need some structure.
Yeah, you start somewhere, you build on that. Yeah.
Right. So what we did, we built on something as simple as 3-count sombrado, right? You did 3, I did 3, and we countered each one, and we moved on, and eventually into free form. And the topic behind that was drills are great and can be used as tools to learn many facets of your art, but what becomes crucial to turn it into flow is learning how to break out of the drill. How to stop it at any given point into something else. And you tried your stuff, I did mine, and eventually we were just trying to hit each other, which was a lot of fun because I enjoy that very, very much. But how do we then, in your opinion, train that? So once we understand, okay, we need to break away from it. We know that, we understand that. But then how do we make it so we're constantly giving each other a back and forth? So we start picking up on transition points of where we can actually go or break apart from a drill. Even if we string a couple of drills together and stay within them, but how do we go about then learning that process? What would be your take on it?
Well, it depends on the student, where they are, and the objective for that specific learning goal.
Okay.
But to answer your question more directly, it's working with the drill as a starting point, and then finding insertion points, finding points for transition.
Ooh, I like that, insertion points. Okay. And would you then consider that also breaking away from that particular drill?
Yes and no. Because the drill is there for the structure.
Right.
And you learn from the drill. But yes, you're breaking away from it, but it still gives you some structure, some comfortable context.
So you're not beating the crap out of each other.
You know? But if you're not getting stuck in the drill.
True.
It's just there enough to give you some structure. Okay. And then from there, you're able to build and grow and experiment and see what you can do.
No, and we definitely want to demonstrate that, and we were going to get up and really show what we're talking about. But before we get to that, I'd like to make a point. Now, this is my personal belief, and I'm sure maybe you have your own take on it. But we're showing it in this progression because I personally believe that we need to learn how to break away from the drill, period, before we start exploring all the different avenues in which we could break away from the drill. Because if that's not the mindset already, to break away from something and go into free flow, then you won't even consider looking for those insertion points, those contact points, and those transition points where you could move away. Because ultimately, a drill is just a combination of movements, but they're individual movements. It's like, oh, I recognize that. I know what I can do to move on to this or do what I need to do. Oh, I recognize that one down there, so I know how to move away from that and apply what I want to apply. And would you say that holds any water? Like, would with that, or would you do it differently? Would you put one before the other?
I think what you're saying is good. I agree with you.
Okay. I didn't pay him to say that, by the way. And we didn't tell him we were going to put him on the couch to talk about it first.
No.
So, but it's again, it's just it's my opinion, but it's also something that I've seen work before. Because if you wouldn't mind, we have several. We call it drills, but they're really we rather call them exercises because you're just learning different things. Like our passing drill, where I give him an exaggerated angle 1, so he can catch the hand. He gives it to me, and it's continuous. And this is basic to any drill. It's continuous. You give each other back and forth, so you're both doing something. You're both learning. In this particular drill, I'm learning how to divert that hand, make sure it doesn't hit me. I'm making sure I'm placing it, so he has to move it, forcing him to then do it. So that's one drill. Then we transition into a rolling drill. Now we're learning something different. The skill set of this particular drill, trying to get to that throat, sensitivity, knowing when you clear the weapon so you can throw it. And then all of a sudden we go back to passing. There we go, back to passing. And we're learning, how do I transition between the two? And if I don't want to transition to his beat, I'm going to keep doing mine. He can change it all he wants, but I'm going to keep on doing mine. I don't have to necessarily follow. When I'm ready, then I can go. Now I'm learning how to then take control of the flow of this. Slow down. We don't have to go fast. Then where else is this? Now I do parry play strike in the middle of our passing. And I want to push it down now, so now we're doing rolling. And at any point, he can change it too, and I just have to get comfortable with, there it is. My alarm is going off. We have 3 different drills that we're working off of, and at any point, we can transition and move on from one to the next and take control. And he doesn't want to move on to the other one, that's fine. But then what else? Wait, how do we transition to sombrada? There's the transition points. There's the areas where now I start finding, I know he's going to give me my hand, so I can transition into passing. But he doesn't want to. He wants to go into something else. I want to go into rolling. He follows me. All of a sudden, he switches. Good. There you go. And at any point, you can start adding any of the drills that you want. And you give yourself those looks and say, I'm going to give you something different, like right here. Now he did something different. Now I want to go into that. And it can be sloppy, and you can go back and you can clean it up. But ultimately, what we're trying to understand is, where can these changes happen? Where can I go from one to the next? And learn to recognize those points. There. Now it's there. There you go. And he changed it on his own, and it was up to me as his training partner to recognize what he's trying to do. So then we can keep up and we can keep it going. It's not about fighting one another for dominance, but understanding at what point can you take that dominance, and whether or not you want to transition into something else. There you go. Because ultimately, it's not going to be that. It's going to be, I just want to attack him and go back into free flow. There you go. And it reminiscent of the drill still, but eventually we just want to. Good. Ooh, nice. And this happens, which is why we start off with basic drills and eventually go back to the basic idea, to the very beginning. Because the control, the repetition, is going to keep you safe long enough so when you do break out of it and start doing your own thing, people aren't getting hurt. But you can take control of the situation as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And it becomes whatever it needs to become. Don't shy away. And this is how, or at least one way, we can start then moving and transitioning from the actual material itself, which is structured, which you do know the movements that go along with it, and breaking it apart, but still maintaining enough of it so you can each follow one another. And then the exploration happens. Once you get comfortable, you start finding other points of transition where you can move. Where now it's, oh, I caught it on the roof block. Oh, I caught it on the clash in the ones. Oh, I caught it down below and I made it into a lower line strike or a different sombrado. We all have these drills, and if we continue with the same drill over and over again, sure, we can get really, really good at them. But ultimately, what are we doing the drill for? What are we taking away from it? This just adds another dynamic to your own training and begs the question, how can you put them together? Can you go in and out of each one of them and transition between the two? And what are you taking from that? Like for you, what did it feel like seeing those transitions? Because, and before he answers, I just want to point out, we haven't really done this before, him and I. We literally just started doing it earlier before the video, just to kind of get a sense of what we were doing. So how did you feel about it?
When we were going slower, I was able to understand what we were doing.
Key.
The transitions, going in and out. And then it got a little more chaotic.
Right.
So I wasn't sure what we were doing, if there were parameters, how much we were free-flowing, how much we were demonstrating the transitional points.
Right.
So,
No, and I did that on purpose because I wanted to see what he would do. But again, it's the process of it in itself. And when I realized that he wanted to maintain a more structural form to what we were doing, I was like, okay, I can adapt to it. I can go back to it. And then once he understood, okay, let's go into free flow, then you really started moving. But whatever happened, happened. And that's ultimately what a fight is. It's just whatever happened. It either worked or it didn't. But you always can go back to that starting point and say, okay, let's find our way back without necessarily having to stop. Because at any one of those points, you could have been like, okay, let's done, reset, and then start it from the beginning again. But again, in a real fight, do you have that chance? Do you have that moment to say, hey, can we reset real quick? You know, let me take a breather, 6 seconds.
give me a one.
You didn't feed me properly. You don't, right?
Yeah.
So, for you as the individual, how beneficial would you say this is to what you're trying to accomplish in your martial arts training?
I think I prefer free-flowing because it gets me out of my head more.
Okay.
But I really liked this structure because it gives me a place to go from, and it allows me to think a lot more about timing and, like, again, those insertion points.
Okay.
So that when I do free flow,
Right.
I have some of those things already in my head that I've seen, that I recognize that I can do.
Okay. And do you say that you sometimes have trouble going from something that's structured into free flow?
Yes, because my tendency is to go for structure, and if I know there are rules, I'm probably going to stick to them. So then there's that thing of, oh, if I'm going to free flow,
Right.
there's that, what I said earlier, what are the parameters? That's
Right.
what my brain goes to. If I know we're just doing free flow, I tend to get more into the zone a little bit. And
It's a little easier to just let go.
yeah.
But, I mean, but isn't that really what we want? Because everything that we do train has to have a structure. I mean, we flat out said at the beginning of the video, you need a starting point.
Yes.
So if that starting point is structured, well, how do we then carry that structure so it becomes free flow? So they're not two separate ideas, but rather one and the same. One feeds the other, and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
And then it becomes this ebb and flow of, okay, we went completely off script. It was crappy. Let's go back to script. Now it's cleaner. Oh, now I have better idea. Because now that we've had this conversation, let's go into free flow. Because this is fun and just kind of came to me, right? So now free flow. And just whatever it is you want to do. Ooh, yeah.
Oh, nice.
Good. Woo! Damn.
Good one.
Woo! That was fun. But did you notice? It became that much easier within your free flow to be like, stop that, move, block when I need to, and then move on to something else. Because those points of contact are still there, even in a free flow. And because you took the time to put them together and say, okay, there's a point of contact, there's a point of contact, there's a transition. Oh, I know, touch here, go here. Oh, tap here, go down. So now you have those avenues where you're combining the structure that you understood with the idea of free flow.
Yeah, I even thought of thrust 5 part coming out.
Right? Because you're like, oh, I'm close enough. Why not? Because then you start giving yourself a space to do that. Or at least that's what we found so far by doing it this way. And again, it starts off with just the simple idea of, let's break away from the drill. All right. Well, now let's break away with the drill, but into another drill, into another one, into another one. Ultimately, just letting your brain pick up on those transition points and those insertion points. And then whatever happens is to the individual. Whatever pops into their head is going to come out, and it's either going to be structured or it's not. But it's going to just flow out of them as best they can, based at, like you said, at their level. Because would a newer student be able to do this? To an extent, yeah. Would it be as clean or as efficient? Probably not. But then you go back to the structure. You learn more skills. You learn things to then adapt better to those changes. And then you go back to free flow. And it's just this back and forth that really, 10 years, it hasn't stopped for me. You've been doing this for 2 years, right?
Almost.
Almost 2 years. And he's probably further along than I was at 2 years. Which I hate to admit, because it kind of digs at me a little bit, but I'm also incredibly proud to have seen your growth to this extent, because even the teachings themselves have evolved because of what we've been doing. So again, it's a simple idea. How do you break away from your drills? By going out of one into another one. You all have them. You have the structure. You know what's happening. Have we taken the time to really explore, okay, if I connect this and this one together, where would they connect? How do I go from one to the other and back? And if you can do it with 2, can you do it with 3? Can you do it with 4? And could you eventually forego all the drills whatsoever and just free flow into whatever it is that you need to? And I'm not just talking about sticks, hands, kicks, all these things, same idea. But you can apply it anywhere and with any art that you please. So, let me know what you think. How do you do this? How do you get from your structure to your free flow, and how to do it better? Because ultimately that's what we're trying to do. And I would love to hear from you, because I always love the ideas that you guys bring to it, because it adds to what I can do and it gives me more ideas that could be then given to the students. So thank you very much for joining me and Eric on a very special Nain Shorts. So to the next one. 3, 2, 1.